When you're hot, you're hot. And today we're here with Matt Padula, aka LiquidSnake. And this man is on fire right now. That's right. After pulling off the big win at Gen Con over the summer, he also three-peated in the ARH League. So today he's here to teach me a thing or six, see what I did there, about playing Star Wars Destiny today. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Star Wars Destiny folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando, and happy Destiny Friday. And Snake, how are we doing? Thanks for joining us.
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you have been racking up the W's as of late. I think you said last week the news came in that you didn't win the September league. Which of the two?
It was the August one.
The August one.
We're finally catching up. It's been quite the trek for Rebel Trader. I know he's overseas in a different country and trying to manage the RH League and keep everyone going, and plus having obviously Gen Con happen.
Right.
So a little bit of delay, but we're finally caught back up.
Yeah, so I think so you broke the three-peat streak, but that means you took down, if I'm getting this correct, you took down May, June, and July, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And then obviously the big win at Gen Con. So
yeah, that was the big one.
So nice. So why don't you walk us through kind of you don't need to do like a play-by-play, but kind of overall, what decks were you on? I know that in the league, you don't cut until you go to the top, or you don't choose your deck till you go to the top cut. So what were you on for each one of those? And then why did you choose those specifically in the meta? And now I'm talking league. We'll talk about Gen Con in a minute.
For sure. Yeah. So for the ARH League, for those that don't know, I mean, the way the league works, basically, you have a structured amount of games that you have to conduct over a 30-day period. And you actually get bonus points, per se, if you play a different deck every single time. So you get that uniqueness point. And the best way to make top cuts is to obviously keep your decks diverse and obviously win if you can. 2 points for a win, 1 point for a loss. But if you get that uniqueness bonus, that can really make a difference. And also try to spread out your games. So if you play a game each week, you also get another participation point per se for playing each week. So best way to approach the league is to pick 6 different decks, have different characters, and just make sure that you get that uniqueness point going so you can try and qualify for the top cut. The decks that I ended up playing throughout the 3 different leagues were all very different, and I did that on purpose just to try and test, obviously, the decks that I wanted to potentially bring to Gen Con in those type of formats, just to see how they would do in a structured tournament. So thinking back, I believe the first deck that I was on to win one of those leagues was actually a previous format before Resurgence actually came out. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi and reluctant instructor Luke Skywalker, which I won the Toronto Prime with, and took in the I think it was the Display of Power release tournament to top 8 as well. So I felt very comfortable with that deck. I knew exactly how it operated, and it performed admirably, obviously in the top cut. And it was my last hurrah with that deck in the sun, so to speak. And then moving forward into the next month, I decided to try and give a different deck a try, just to see if it could still hold its weight from that previous format, even with the new cards being released. And it was the Sun and Kira Path to Mastery. This deck was very, very strong. I won most of my top cut matches 2-0. Didn't really have much trouble except for when I faced Norman. Obviously a great player and knew how to pilot against that deck, but that one was a pretty clean sweep in top cut. So felt pretty good about that deck. And the final one that I played going into the lead up months to Gen Con was Darth Vader, similar to the Terror to Behold version, but the Display of Power Darth Vader with Palpatine and Crucial Intel. And the great thing about this deck, it has a lot of synergy, being able to utilize Rise Again to play Emperor on either character. So giving that flexibility of also allowing if the discards happen, which synergize with Vader, and then you can also get the Crucial Intel plot to tick up, so you get that ambush action with Vader and his powerful dice. So it's a pretty strong deck, and ultimately that's what I was leaning towards playing heading into Gen Con. But it was between literally that deck, Luke Yaddle, which was a replacement to the Obi-Wan Kenobi version of Luke and him, and then either Sun Kira. So it was a tough choice to make. I actually brought all 3 decks with me to Gen Con because I still didn't land on a deck to play. And I remember playtesting with Norman actually at Gen Con the night before, and still not really sure of what to play. But ultimately, I made my decision. I think it was around 2:00 in the morning the night prior that I was going to go with Sun Kira.
Yeah, and then you ended up getting that banned, or getting that nerfed, I should say, not banned, but gotten it nerfed.
Yeah, I do have to give the original pilot some credit on that deck, that build. My version's a little bit different, slightly different from it, but the original creator of the deck was Vika. And I remember facing him in the Invitational prior to Display of Power and seeing that deck in action and how he had piloted it. And I thought I could tweak it a bit, make it my own, but ultimately it was still very, very powerful. And it felt the best going into the meta that we had seen so far.
So when you're choosing your decks in these metas these days, right? I mean, to be clear, everyone who watches this knows I'm a huge fan of what ARH has done with the in-depthness of the sets, and I think that also does make it harder to kind of unpeel the onion, if that's the right metaphor here. So when you're looking at decks and pairings, what are you primarily looking for? Do you take a value-based approach? Do you look at like synergies and combos, or what's your go-to?
Yeah, I think that one thing that I like to look at is just the raw data from the decks being played in the ARH leagues, and just looking at their win percentage against the field, just to see how it's doing against such a variety of decks, and just comparing that to others. Like if you look at the Sun and Kira, the win ratio on that deck was extremely high. It was 75 plus, depending on who was piloting it. So for me, looking at that ultimately was one of the deciding factors to why to pilot that. Also, as you said, value based from characters. If you take a look at Kira as an example, her ability, her power action, and her die sides for what she brings to the table as a 13-point character, extremely valuable. She has a couple 2 sides for damage, plus that power action. It's almost as if you're guaranteed, landing at least 5 damage and a resource out of a character per round without upgrades. So just looking at the value of that character alone screams to me that it's a must-play style character. So, and she's thematically done very well in other tournaments too. I know that she was part of the winning deck for the St. Louis regional that Norman had ran. I believe it was Stubby that took that down with Maul Kira, which is really cool to see. But she's a very, very powerful character. And then looking at the Sun too, extreme value on him, being able to get a 3rd die on a 15-point character that has 50% damage sides, insanely good value. So why not put those 2 characters together?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, and it clearly worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the main synergy was the path to mastery plot too. Being able to just have that additional ability to start on the Sun to tick him up right away, it gives you such a huge advantage in terms of getting that 3rd die out as quickly as possible.
So from that perspective, that is interesting. You go back and you look at the league. I mean, I assume you just look at the general field league data and draw some conclusions from that is what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, maybe we should actually try to do that more on the casts, right? Because we have the metadata available, we should probably use it.
It's totally open to all the players. Yeah, you can dive through it, and it's pretty cool. It gives you some ideas to look at for decks of your own, right? So it's a pretty good form to have.
Yeah, fair enough. So what do you think is when we say lacking, that generally has a negative connotation to it, and that's not what I'm driving at. But if you're to look at the meta overall, do you see, usually it's like a 3 pie thing, right? You've kind of got control in there, aggro in there, mid-range in there. What do you see do you see anything lacking or kind of lagging behind?
It's interesting you say that because when I think about the meta right now, it's very diverse, wide open. But there are a couple of gatekeeper decks that I think that if you're going into a major tournament like Gen Con, you really want to think about, okay, can this deck stand up against it? And based on my testing, the decks that I really wanted to make sure that I could compete against were obviously Vader, Palpatine, any really big blue with Palpatine. Um, I would say Sun Kira and Luke Yaddle, and of course Mill. Mill has a strong presence still with Leia, the princess. She is incredibly good still for 14 point base and her power action. She has a plethora of pairings that are very, very strong. Like you could pair her with two Padawans, or with Padme, even the daughter. There's so many good synergies for Mill still. So for me, if your deck can compete against those different options, then it has a strong chance of winning. But I still feel that there really isn't anything lacking per se. Every play style has a strong deck, or I'd say a tier 1 deck that can compete.
Oh, that's great. And to that point, Leia Padawans actually took down the Dice Commando September 10 tourney just wrapped up last week finally, and it was D'Arteo, right, on
Yes.
Padawans, who took that down.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's not an easy deck to pilot. It does take a little bit of strategy and planning, but it can do some work for sure. It's a great deck.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna switch subjects on you, and I didn't warn you about this one. I'm just gonna kind of go there. So, have you been looking at Star Wars Unlimited at all? What's your take on that overall, and how do you see that fitting into the Destiny environment?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, while I was at Gen Con, I actually wanted to try it out, and I gave it a test run when I was there, and it really reminded me of the two-player set of Star Wars Destiny when it first came out, where it felt like the game had great mechanics, great back and forth playability, but it just didn't feel 100% complete. And I feel like once more cards or once more stuff gets revealed for Unlimited, we're going to see the game in full swing and see more of its full potential. But it felt a lot like Destiny because it's a back and forth interaction, and still had that thematic feel of Star Wars. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But I don't necessarily know if it will be as good as Destiny was. That's just my opinion, but I think that it does have potential to be a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think from the way that they're approaching the product, I think it has the potential to last longer than Destiny did, right? I mean, doing the chase cards will sell them more product, zero question, right? So that's definitely something that, if you look at Destiny's, I know we're kind of going down the rabbit hole here, right? But if you look at Destiny's history as a product, there was really no reason to buy more than like a case, and very few people bought a case, right? So, but in this case, if you're chasing shiny Darth Vader, well, now I need 10 cases. So from a company perspective, it looks like it's got legs to last. The question is, will the players buy it, right?
Yeah, and I think they're catering to a wider variety of people. You're right. And if you think about it, they've learned a lot from their previous product releases. Like, for example, I know the 2-player set that's coming out is going to have enough cards for you to fully compete. You're going to have a full-size deck, a hero thematic version, and a villain. And obviously the characters that they're using are very iconic, right? You're using Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. So I think they've learned a lot from their original project, and hopefully it'll continue down that way.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so what are you looking forward to? We have the next set on the near horizon, probably within the next month and change, right? Or actually we're late October, so yeah, probably about month and change, right? So what are you looking forward to from that? And then kind of question number 2 on that is, with what we're going to lose in Redemption, do you have any holes you expect that need plugged?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you did a cast earlier about the loss of Redemption, how big that's going to be, and there's a lot of staple cards in the ARH meta right now that belong to that set, and I think that was really one of the defining sets for ARH based on the power level of most of those cards, and even the removal suite. Like we're gonna miss Headstrong, we're gonna miss Power of the Tribe. Well, I am at least, but I know there are some players out there that are gonna say, oh, "Thank you, it's finally gone." No, but in joking aside, it is going to be a tough few card slots to place depending on what the new set brings. But if there's one thing I'm very excited about, it's that the ARH team, the crew, they always have a plan. They have a great path, and the last few sets have really set the tone to that. I got to give Echo of Clubs a huge shout out for the way he's designing these cards and the way he's plotted each set. And I think they've done a great job in terms of keeping it consistent, keeping it fresh. So I am excited for the new set to see what it brings. But yeah, I'm going to miss a few of those removal cards more so than anything. I think that's where most of the cards will need more, I guess, replacement from the reprint list. Characters, we have abundance of still. Upgrades, I think, are solid. Supports even are good too. I think it's more so just the event suite might need a little love from the reprint list.
Right. Yeah, and I think the real question will be, when we lose those two big removal pieces, does it become obvious or not? It may not be, but does it become obvious or not that the sizes of die, like the average size of a die, has increased, right? Because now that you're not removing two at a time, the games start ending faster overall. You know where I'm going with that, right? So
absolutely. Or does the symbol of the die even matter more so? Because if we remember from the Faltering Allegiance first set, there wasn't really a lot of removal against specials or other type of sides, right? So I think that's something that I think they'll be paying attention to closely for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. See how that will go. All right, well, before we wrap this up, in kind of going back to our hot tips thing, right? If someone's picking up or they want to become the next LiquidSnake, what's the advice you would throw out there in terms of getting kind of into the competitive Destiny scene and being able to stay on top of it?
For sure. Well, first I'd start by becoming a Dice Commando member. No, I'm just kidding. No, obviously that would definitely help. But take a look into obviously the content creators out there. Pay attention to what's going on with the meta. Get involved in the ARH League. That's where I first started my competitive journey, was just joining the league. And my first go in the league was not the greatest. I was losing a lot, but what I took away from those losses was something new each time. And I find that our community is great. Talking to each player, you can always ask for feedback. Where do you think I went wrong? What mistakes do you think did I make? And just reviewing that with them, and just getting their feedback. And one thing that I really stressed was I did a write-up for Casero, and it's for the ARH page. But if you go to look at that article, I talked a lot about just look at what the top players are doing and try to get as many reps in with them as you can. Learn from them. And also just try to understand the game theory a little bit better. There was a specific episode on the Off the Censors YouTube channel that I really loved. It was a video where they had Vika and Norman on, and they were discussing just how to be a better player overall. How do you get into the competitive scene, and how do you get successful? And after watching that video, I remember thinking, okay, if I really want to get better at this game, I have to change my mindset a bit. Maybe just be more open to that feedback from professional players or other people in the community, and just practice. And I think that if you want to become the next pro player, it's very easy to do. It just takes some dedication, some time. I don't think that it's that difficult, depending if you're willing to commit the time to playing in the league and just playing as many games as you can. So it just comes down to just having that can-do attitude and just playing with others and just learning.
Yeah, fair enough. Get the reps. Fair enough.
Yeah, totally.
Fair enough. All right, well, before we wrap this up, any shout-outs to give? Maybe tournaments coming soon?
Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, I just want to give a shout out, obviously, to the ARH team for the amazing job that they continue to do with this game, and just for all their support. I just want to recognize a couple individuals from Gen Con, obviously Majo Basil, and the OTS crew. Like, they did a phenomenal job running each event. They were spectacular. And without them, I don't think it wouldn't have been as smooth. Shout out, obviously, to the Entourage crew. I play with them consistently as well as Dice Commando team, but Turkey Club Sandwich and Norman, them two in particular. Without the reps with those two individuals, I don't think I'd be where I am right now, or I wouldn't have been even close to being a Gen Con champion. So I really appreciate the time spent with them playing the game. And upcoming tournaments, yes. So there is a special event we're having in about 2 weeks from now. We're having our next Toronto Prime, the 2023 Prime. It's going to be in Newmarket. I have all the details posted on the Facebook pages for ARH and the Destiny groups. But don't hesitate to reach out if you're in the greater Toronto area and you'd like to come out and roll some dice. By all means, please come out and play. We already have about 10 confirmed players, so we're looking to. Yeah, so far so good. We're looking to get to that 16 mark, so hopefully maybe we can have our own grand champion event here in Canada as well. So that's the goal.
Nice, awesome. Well, hey, congratulations for again Gen Con. That was the big one, right? But congratulations for everything you've been doing, and thanks for continuing to be a pillar of the Destiny community. So.
Really appreciate it, and thank you again for having me and having the time to spend with me, obviously, to talk about all these great events and what's going on in our community. So really appreciate that, Andrew.
Yeah, awesome. We'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And say it with me, my friend. Go Commando.
Go Commando.